All rise. The Honorable Charles Smiley, Alameda County Superior Court presiding.
Please be seated. Will the clerk please call the first case this evening?
Now calling case number 19 CR 3419, People v. Henry Rivers.
Thank you, Mr. Alper. Please bring in the defendant. Thank you. Prosecution team, are you ready to proceed? Defense team, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Mr. Alper, now you may bring in our jury. Thank you and good evening to our jury. The defendant in this case, Henry Rivers. Mr. Rivers, would you kindly stand up so the jury can see you? Thank you. You may be seated. Is accused here of committing the crime of felony battery. You are here to decide if Mr. Rivers is guilty or not guilty. A defendant in a criminal case is presumed to be innocent. Just because he is sitting here before you does not mean that he is guilty. The prosecution must prove that Mr. Rivers is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you very sure that the allegation is true. The evidence the prosecution presents does not have to get rid of all possible doubt, because everything in life is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. It is up to you, jurors, to decide which witnesses to believe. And in deciding whether the testimony is true, use your common sense and experience. Among the factors you may consider are these. How well could the witness see or hear the things about which he or she testifies? Was the witness's testimony influenced by a personal relationship with someone involved in the case? Mr. Rivers, the defendant, is charged with one count of felony battery in violation of Section 243D of the California Penal Code. To prove that the defendant is guilty of this crime, the prosecution must prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Henry Rivers, purposefully used force or violence upon another person, causing serious injury. The prosecution must also prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant was not acting in self-defense. After you hear all the evidence, including the testimony, and then the arguments in this case, you will talk amongst yourselves in a process we call deliberation. You will then vote to decide whether you think Mr. Rivers is guilty or not guilty. Before we begin, I'd like to ask all members of the jury to make sure that you do not speak, laugh, or make any noise during the trial. Please also turn off your cell phones and refrain from looking at them during the trial. We want everyone to be able to concentrate on the lawyers and the witnesses who are conducting the trial. I'll remind our members of the audience witnessing this trial this evening also Please do not applaud during the trial. The temptation will be great, but you must resist. Thank you all for your cooperation. Let's begin with opening statements. Is the prosecution ready to begin with an opening statement? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Please begin.
Members of the jury, Henry Rivers is guilty. This is a case about a boy who could not control his temper. He lost his temper and hit another boy named Yanier Jones on the head with a frozen Snickers bar, and it was not self-defense. We are going to hear from Yanier Jones. He will tell you that on March 1st, 2019, he went to a movie theater with his friend Destiny Fong. They are both students at Berkeley High School. Yanier and Destiny got good seats in the theater, which was crowded on a Friday night. He will tell you that he got up to get popcorn, and when he came back, Henry was sitting in his seat. Then Yanier got in an argument, and without warning, Henry hit Yanier on the head with a frozen Snickers bar. This was not just any Snickers bar. It was frozen solid, hard as a rock. After Henry hit him, Yanier dropped his popcorn and it flew everywhere. Yanier will also testify that he was hurt badly. He had headaches for several days and had a big swollen bump on his head. Next, you will hear from Yanier's friend, Destiny Fong. She will testify that Henry Rivers was rude and aggressive. Also that Yanier was very friendly and kind. She will also testify that there was no good reason for Henry to have hit Yanier on the head. Yanier didn't verbally threaten Henry, he didn't physically threaten Henry, he didn't threaten Henry at all. Then you will hear from Mark O'Mackey. Mark is also a Berkeley High student, but he was not in the movie theater that night. He's in the same photography class as Henry. Mark will testify that he heard Henry talking to his friend the day after the incident at the movie theater, and he heard Henry say, "I've been looking for a reason to hurt that guy after what he did to me. I finally got the chance when he least expected it." Now you are going to hear from some defense witnesses, but listen closely to their testimony and listen to the cross-examinations of those witnesses. Nobody disputes that Henry hit Yanier with a frozen Snickers bar. They only talk about how it might have been self-defense. But it was not self-defense, and the prosecution will prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. After you've heard all the testimony in this case, my colleague, Mr. Alper, will stand before you and ask you to return the only fair verdict in this case, guilty.
Thank you, counsel. Would the defense like to give an opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, members of the jury. This is a case about self-defense. The witnesses in this case will testify that Yanier Jones dumped a bucket of popcorn on my client, Henry Rivers, and then he threatened him and then cocked his fist back. This was only then that Henry defended himself by hitting Yanier with a frozen Snickers bar. On March 1st, Henry Rivers went by himself to the 7 p.m. showing of the Lego Movie 2. He went to the concession stand and brought himself a frozen Snickers bar. It was crowded in the theater, but he was able to find an open seat near the aisle. When he sat down, Destiny Fong, who was sitting next to him, started to yell at him, telling him to get out of the seat because her friend was sitting there. Henry said that he was sorry and that he didn't see anyone's stuff in the seat. You will hear that as Henry was leaving the seat, Yanier Jones walked up and said, "Hey, get out of my seat, what are you doing?" When Henry tried to respond, Yanier dumped a bucket of popcorn on Henry, cocked his fist back and said, "You don't want to mess with me, Henry." The evidence will show that Henry was scared because Yanier is a lot bigger and stronger than him, and then he swung his Snickers bar at Yanier to defend himself. You will hear from Omar Ocasio, an usher at the movie stand. He will tell you that he saw Yanier dump a huge tub of popcorn on Henry for no reason at all. You will also hear from Medusa Ibarra, who was another person there to watch the movie, that she heard Destiny Fong yelling at Henry, She would testify that Yanir Jones said, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry," and then after that, dumped a huge tub of popcorn on him. You also hear from Henry Rivers himself that when he walked into the theater, he sat in an empty seat. He would testify that Destiny yelled at him to get out of the seat. As Henry was leaving, Yanir came in with a tub of popcorn and yelled at Henry. After Yanir dumped a tub of popcorn on Henry, he threatened to punch him, and Yanir got scared. Henry got scared. In self-defense, Henry took out his frozen Snickers bar and hit Yanir in the head to protect himself. Yes, he hit Henry, but he did it in self-defense. He is not guilty.
Thank you very much. Let's turn to the presentation of evidence. Prosecution, please call your first witness. Thank you. Mr. Jones, please come forward.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Jones. Good evening. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. My name is Yanir Jones, Jones. Yanir, what school do you attend? I attend Berkeley High. Can you please tell the jury how old you are? I am 16 years old. Do you remember where you were on Friday, March 1st? I was in the showing of the Lego movie, too, at Shut Up Theater. Were you with anyone that night? Yes, I was with my friend Destiny Fong. Do you know Henry Rivers? Yes. How do you know him? We were pretty good friends in elementary school. Was Henry at the movie theater that night? Yes. Did something happen with Henry that night at the movie theater? We got into an argument. What happened? So when I went to the concession stand to get popcorn, when I went back, Henry was in my seat. How did the popcorn spill onto Henry? He hit me with this Snickers bar for no reason, so the popcorn dropped and flew everywhere. Did you purposely spill the popcorn on Henry? No. Did you threaten Henry? No. What happened when the police arrived? Henry got arrested, and I watched the rest of the movie. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Good evening, Mr. Jones. Good evening. Do you know Henry? You've known Henry a long time, right? Yes. You used to be great friends. Yes. But now you don't like him at all, right? Yes. He thinks he's better than everyone, correct? Yes. You want to see him in trouble, don't you? Yes, but I wouldn't lie. You went to the Lego movie too, correct? Yes. You went to see the movies with Destiny? Yes. You left to go get popcorn? Yes. When you came back, you saw Destiny and Henry arguing, correct? Yes. You started to join the argument, didn't you? Yes. Then you testified that you hit Henry with the Snickers bar? Yes, he did hit me. Then your head hurt after, right? Yes. Then you felt dizzy? Yes. Then you had a bump? Yes. But that night you didn't get any medical help, did you? No. You didn't go to the hospital? No. In fact, you were able to go back to the movie theater and get a refill on popcorn? Yes. And then you went back to your seat? Yes. And you stayed and watched the movie? Yes. And you ate the popcorn? Yes. You didn't get up to leave in the middle of the movie, did you? No. You watched the whole movie? Yes. And then you went home? Yes. You didn't go to the hospital after the movie either? No. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Witness is excused. Will the prosecution call its next witness?
The prosecution calls Destiny Fong.
Destiny Fong, come forward. Please remain standing to be sworn.
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Please be seated. Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Good evening, Ms. Fong.
Good evening.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Destiny Fong, F-O-N-G.
What school do you go to?
I go to Berkeley High.
What grade are you in?
I'm a sophomore.
Where were you on the evening of March 1st, 2019?
I was at the movies with my friend,
What was your friend's name?
Junior Jones.
Did anything unusual happen at the movies?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I went to the movies with my friend, and he got up to go get some snacks from the concession stand. And another kid from school, Henry Rivers, sat down in his seat. I politely asked him to move, but he wasn't moving, so I asked him again, but he wouldn't move. He finally decided to move when my friend came back from the concession stand and also asked him to move. Henry then got really mad and hit Junior on the head with a frozen Snickers bar out of nowhere.
How close were you to me and Henry when they were talking?
I was sitting right next to them.
How was Junior acting during the argument?
Junior was pretty calm.
How was Henry acting during the argument?
Henry was really mad.
How clearly were you able to hear what they were saying?
I could hear really clearly.
Could you see the expressions on their faces?
Yes.
How able were you to see what was going on?
Well, the movie hadn't started and the lights were still on, so I could see very well.
Was Junior threatening to Henry?
No.
Did Junior punch Henry?
Nope.
Did Junior shove Henry?
No.
Did Junior kick Henry?
No.
Did Junior lay hands of any kind on Henry that night?
No.
Are you aware of any conflict between Henry and Junior before March 1st?
Yes.
Did it seem serious to you?
No.
What did Junior buy at the concession stand?
He got popcorn.
What happened to the popcorn?
Well, when he got hit on the head, the popcorn flew all over Henry in the seat below us.
Can you identify the person who ate your friend?
Yes.
Is that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point him out to the jury? Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Henry Rivers. Thank you. No further questions.
The record will so reflect. Cross-examination.
Good evening, Miss Fong. Good evening. You were at the Shattuck Theater on March 1st, 2019, right? Yes. You and Mia were going to watch the Lego movie, correct? Yes. And you and Mia came early to get good seats. Yeah. Mia left to get some popcorn, correct? Mm-hmm. And you didn't put a jacket or anything in the chair? No. Then Henry came. Yes. And sat down in the seat. Yes. That had nothing on it. Yes. Now you know Henry from school, correct? Yes. You don't like Henry, do you? No. Because you heard he was once mean to a friend of yours. Yes. And you were friends with Junior, right? Yes. So you don't like Henry? No, but I wouldn't lie. Okay, now, at the theater that night, you told Henry to get out of your seat, correct? Yes. You thought he was taking a long time getting up? Yes. And you got a bit annoyed? Yes. So you told him to hurry up? Yes. Then Junior came back from the concession stand? Yeah. And Junior told Henry to move? Yes. After Henry hit Junior with the chocolate bar, he continued to watch the movie, right? Yes. He didn't call for an ambulance? No. He didn't go home? No. He didn't go to the hospital? No. And he didn't go to the emergency room? No. He refilled his popcorn? Yes. And sat down and watched the movie with you? Yes. But thank you, no further questions.
Thank you. The witness is excused. Prosecution, do you have another witness to call at this time?
Prosecution.
Thank you. Mark O'Mackey, please come forward.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I'm going to adjust the microphone. Perfect. Whenever you're ready, Counsel.
Good evening, Mr. O'Mackey. Good evening. Please state your name and spell it for the record. Mark O'Mackey, O-M-A-C-K-E-Y. How old are you? 15. And what school do you go to? Berkeley High. Do you happen to know a junior at Berkeley High named Henry Rivers? Yes. How well do you know Henry? I've known him since middle school. Are you aware of a fight that happened in the first week of March, 2019? Yes. How did you learn about the fight? Through the conversation. Where were you when you heard about the fight? In class. Who did you hear was in the fight? Henry Rivers and this other guy. Where did you hear the fight occurred? In the South Theater. And was Henry Rivers in the classroom when this conversation was going on? He came in the middle of the conversation. Did he say anything when you walked in? Yeah. What exactly did he say? I was looking for a reason to hurt that guy. After what he'd been, I finally got my chance when the least expected it. Did he say anything else? No. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Good evening, Mr. O'Mackey. Good evening. You didn't see the fight, did you? No. You weren't in the theater when it happened? No. You've never seen Henry get in a fight, have you? No. In fact, Henry is a pretty nice guy, correct? Yeah. You heard Henry talking about a fight? Yes. But you did not hear the beginning of the conversation, did you? Yes. You don't know for sure what they were talking about, do you? I do. Henry brought up a guy? What? Henry brought up a guy? Yeah. But you don't know who he was talking about? No. They could have been talking about anything, right? Yeah. You don't know Henry very well, do you? Yeah, I know him. Even if he was talking about you knew he could have been joking, right? Can you repeat it? He could have been sarcastic, right? Yeah. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Witness is excused. Does the prosecution have any other witnesses to call? Thank you. The prosecution will rest its case in chief. Very well. Let's turn our attention to the defense. Does the defense team have a witness to call at this time?
Defense calls Angela Fuentes.
Thank you. Angela Fuentes, please come forward.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Ms. Fuentes. Good evening. Please state your name. Angela Fuentes. No, please spell your last name for the record. Fuentes. How old are you? 16. Where do you go to school? At Berkeley High. What grade are you in? I'm a junior at Berkeley High. Do you know Henry Rivers? Yes. How do you know Henry? I've known Henry my entire life. Do you know the New York Times? Yes. Did something happen between Henry and Jimmy in March 2019 at the movie theater? Yes. What happened? Henry and Yunior got in a fight. How do you know about it? Because Henry told me. Have you ever seen Yunior do something for me? Yes. What did he do? He shoved it into a locker. Did you see Henry after the fight? Yes. Where did you see him? At school. What did Henry tell you? He said, I was just waiting for a perfect opportunity to smack him, although I could tell he was being sarcastic. Did he tell you who started the fight? No. Did Henry say anything else about the fight? No. Was he being serious? No. Was he being sarcastic? Yes. Do you think Henry wanted to hurt Janelle? No. Why do you think that? Because Henry is a peaceful person and does not get into fights. No further question.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Good evening, Miss Fuentes. Good evening. Henry and you are good friends, right?
Yes.
Henry is like a brother to you, right?
Yes.
Your parents met when your moms were pregnant with you?
Yes.
So you have known Henry your whole life, right?
Yes.
He would do anything for you?
Yes.
Because you're so close.
Yes.
And you would do anything for him, right?
Yes. Except
Now, Miss Fuentes, do you agree that Henry said, I was really waiting for a reason to hurt that guy, right?
Yes.
And do you agree that he also said, I was just waiting for the perfect opportunity to smack him, right?
Yes.
You did hear him say these words.
Yes.
It's just your opinion that he was being sarcastic?
Yes.
Henry was upset about getting arrested, right?
Yes.
And he was mad.
Yes.
When Henry gets mad, he gets dark, right?
Yes.
You weren't at the movie theater that night.
No, I wasn't at the movie theater.
So you don't really know what happened, right?
Yes.
You just heard about it from Henry.
Yes.
Henry, your really good friend?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. You're excused. Any other witnesses for the defense? Thank you. Omar Ocasio.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Ocasio.
Good evening.
Please state your name.
Omar Ocasio.
Spell your last name for the record.
Ocasio.
How old are you?
28 years old.
Where do you work?
At the Shattuck Theater.
What do you do at the theater?
I work as an usher.
Did anything unusual happen on March 1st, 2019?
Yes.
What happened?
There was a fight.
When did the fight happen?
Around 7 p.m.
Who was involved in the fight?
2 teenage boys.
Did you notice anything going on before the fight?
Yes.
What did you notice?
One of the boys and another teenage girl were talking very loudly.
What happened next?
The other boy walked down the aisle with a big tub of popcorn and dumped it on the other boy.
What did the boy with the popcorn do?
He dumped it on the other boy.
Did it look like he did it on purpose?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good evening, Mr. Ocasio. Good evening. You saw a girl and a boy arguing, correct? Yes. You saw another boy walk toward the boy and the girl who were arguing. Yes. There was a big commotion, right? Yes. And the lights were dim, right? Yes. Because it was a movie theater. Yes. And when all this was happening, you were all the way back of the theater, weren't you? Yes. In fact, you were 50 feet away from this commotion. True. Also, it was loud in the theater, correct? Yes. So basically, you couldn't hear what anyone said, could you? A little bit. You testified, quote, all of a sudden, I saw the boy dump his popcorn on the other boy, end of quote.
Is that right?
Yes.
In fact, you don't know if it was quote, all of a sudden, end of quote, do you?
Yes.
You don't know why the popcorn got dropped, correct?
No.
You weren't paying attention before the popcorn got dropped, right?
No, not really.
Because there was a lot of kids in the theater.
Yes.
And it was loud
Yes.
and dark.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Excuse. Next witness for the defense.
The defense called Rosa Parks.
Thank you. Adisa Abar, please come forward.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Good day to you, Miss Ibarra. Hello. Please state and spell your last name for the record. Elisa Ibarra, A-B-A-R-A. How old are you? 77. Miss Ibarra, where were you on the evening of March 1st, 2019? I went to see a movie. What movie? The Lego Movie 2. Thank you. Which showing of the movie did you go see? The 7 p.m. showing. Which theater? The Chateau Theater. Who did you go with? My granddaughter Monique. How old is she? 9 years old. What type of age group was at the movies? Teenagers. How were they acting? Rowdy? Was there anyone sitting directly behind you? Yes. How many people? 2. What gender were they? A boy and a girl. What was their relationship? Friends. I don't know, but they seemed like they were friends. That's how it always starts. Did one of them get up at some point? Yes. Did you hear anything? Yes. What did you hear? The boy said he was going to go get some popcorn. What happened next? Another boy came in and sat down in the original boy's seat. Did anything happen with those two? They got in an argument. What happened after that? The girl told him to get out of the seat. What did the boy do? He apologized and said he was going to move. What did the girl do? She yelled at him and told him to move out of the seat, which seems a bit rude. What happened next? The other boy came back and got in an argument with the boy who was sitting in the seat. Intriguing, please continue. Then the boy dumped the popcorn on the other boy and it rained down on you and Monique. How did you react when the popcorn rained down on you and Monique? I put my hands on Monique to protect her. Did the first boy say anything? Yes. What did the first boy say? He said, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry." How did it sound when he said, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry"? Settling. What happened next? There was a big commotion. I think both the boys left the theater. Are you sure this is the order that the things happened? Respect your elders, yes. What happened after that? The movie started and we watched the movie. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good evening, Miss Ibarra.
Good evening.
Isn't it true you have to wear a hearing aid?
Yes.
And the reason you're wearing a hearing aid is because you can't hear that well.
Yes.
And also, isn't it true you didn't want to be rude?
Yes.
That's why you didn't want to turn around and look at them, right?
True.
It's also rude to eavesdrop, isn't it?
Yes.
So you weren't trying to eavesdrop either, right?
No.
So you must not have been paying that close attention to exactly what they were saying, right?
I guess.
When you first walked into the theater, you regretted it, right?
Yes.
You regretted it because there was a bunch of rowdy teenagers there?
Yes.
And again, they were being very loud.
Yes.
Let's talk about the incident that happened next.
Okay.
You didn't know these kids, right?
No.
You had never spoken to them?
Yes.
You didn't know what their voices sounded like?
No, I didn't.
The story is that the popcorn fell on you, and then you heard the boy that was originally in the seat say, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry," right?
Yes.
It was also a big commotion.
Yes.
That happened very fast.
Yes.
You weren't looking at them.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't keeping track of exactly who said what and when.
True.
You weren't keeping track of exactly who did what and when.
Yes.
You certainly weren't taking notes, were you?
No.
Now you say that both boys left the theater, right?
Yes.
You're sure about that?
Not fully.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Does the defense have another witness to call? Defense calls Henry Rivers. Please come forward, Mr. Rivers.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Rivers.
Good evening.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Henry Rivers, Rivers.
How old are you?
I'm 16.
What school do you go to?
Berkeley High School.
Where were you on March 1st, 2019?
I was at the Shattuck Berkeley Theater.
Did anything unusual happen in the theater?
Yes.
What happened?
I went to the concession stand.
Did you buy anything at the concession stand?
Yes, I bought a frozen Snickers bar.
What did you do after you went to the concession stand?
I walked into the theater and found a seat.
Was anyone on the seat next to you?
Yes, a girl from school named Destiny Fong was.
Did she say anything to you?
She said, "My friend's sitting here, can you please leave?"
What was her tone of voice?
Rude and grouchy.
What happened next?
Her friend Yanir came, she asked me again, and then her friend Yanir came back.
Did Yanir say anything to you?
He said, "Get out of my seat, jerk."
What did Yanir do next?
He poured his whole bucket of popcorn on me.
Did he do anything else?
Yes, he cocked his fist back and began to punch me.
Did he say anything when he cocked his fist up?
He said, "You don't want to mess with me, Henry."
What were you thinking when he said this?
I was thinking, I'm going to get hurt real bad.
Did you do anything to defend yourself?
Yes. I lightly swung my frozen Snickers bar at him as a reflex.
Why did you hit him with the frozen Snickers bar?
Because I felt like that was the only way to prevent myself from getting hurt, and I felt scared and threatened because he's bigger and stronger than me.
Did you try and see if Yanir was okay?
Yes, but as soon as I got into the lobby, the police told me that I was under arrest for the assault of Yanir Jones.
No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good evening, Mr. Rivers.
Good evening.
You don't like Yanir, do you?
No.
In fact, you haven't liked him since middle school, have you?
No, because he shoved a kid into a locker.
And you decided not to be friends with him?
Yes.
So even before you walked into that theater that night, you didn't like Yanir Jones?
No.
You went to the concession stand, right?
Yes.
You bought a frozen Snickers bar, right?
Yes.
It wasn't an ice cream Snickers bar.
No.
It was a regular Snickers bar that was frozen solid.
Yes, but I bought a frozen Snickers bar because they taste better than ice cream Snickers bars.
And that's what you had in your hand when you got in the argument with Yanir, right?
Yes.
The theater was crowded, right?
Yes.
You sat next to Destiny Fong.
Yes.
The second you sat down, Destiny told you that the seat was taken, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true she asked you to leave?
Yes, but the only reason that I was slow to get up was because I was looking around the theater for a seat.
In fact, by the time Ymir came back to his seat, you were still arguing with Destiny?
Yes.
And even after Ymir asked you to leave, you wouldn't just leave?
I was starting to leave.
Instead, you stayed and argued, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, when you understood that the seat was taken, you didn't just get up and leave. Oh, sorry. Instead, you hit Ymir with the frozen Snickers bar, right?
Yes, because he poured a bag of popcorn on me.
Ymir never punched you, did he?
Nobody threatened to.
Now, in your photography class at Berkeley High. Now you're at your photography class at Berkeley High, right?
Yes.
And one day after this fight, you came in class talking about it, right?
Yes.
You told your friend that you wanted to hit Ymir.
Yes, in a sarcastic way.
And that you finally got your chance, correct?
Yes.
This is a serious crime you've been charged with, Mr. Rivers, correct?
Yes.
You can go to jail.
Yes.
You could be fined a lot of money.
Yes.
You don't want this to happen, do you?
No.
You say anything to stop this from happening, wouldn't you?
Yes, except why.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Does the defense have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Thank you. The defense having rested. Members of the jury, that will conclude the taking of evidence portion of this trial. We're going to take a brief recess to give the attorneys an opportunity to prepare their closing statements. That means everybody, we will stand in recess for 5 minutes. Clerk?
This court is now in recess for 5 minutes. You may get up and leave your seats, but we will resume the trial in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. This court is now in session. The Honorable Charles Smiley presiding.
Are counsel ready for closing statements? Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution has the burden. You may begin.
Respected jury, all of this testimony you have heard tonight clearly points to Henry Rivers' way of being guilty. Guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. May I remind you of the battle of Ymir Jones? Let me remind you of the information that Marco Mackey has provided for us. You remember Marco Mackey, right? He isn't friends with either Ymir or Henry. He has nothing to gain from any of this. He told us that he saw Henry chatting with his friend talking about, I had been looking for a reason to hurt that guy after what he did to me. I finally got my chance when he least expected it. And he took his chance, dizziness and stumbling, headaches for several days, big swelling up on the head. In short, serious physical injury. How frightening that must have been for you. And all of us know the difference between sarcasm and sincerity. And Marco Mackey did not testify that Henry sounded sarcastic when he made this remark. In fact, the only person who says the remark was sarcastic was Inigo Fuentes, Henry's good friend. A good friend who naturally does not want to see their friend go to jail. Why would anyone say something like this? Well, let's look at how Henry acted that night. 1. He took Ymir's seat. 2. He was told by Destiny that it was Ymir's seat. You hear straight from Destiny about this. 3. Even after he told it wasn't his seat, and even after he was told it was Ymir's seat, and even after Destiny asked him to get up and leave, he still refused. This is how a person acts when they are, as his own friend testified, waiting for an opportunity to smack him. You heard the defense talk a lot about popcorn. Small, light, soft, fluffy popcorn. However, Ymir testified under oath that he dropped the popcorn on accident when he was hit in the face. It is true that the usher, Omar Acasio, said he saw Ymir dump the popcorn before he hit him. But Omar said on the cross-examination the lights were dim and the theater was loud, and he was 50 feet away, so how can he really see what he has claims to have seen? You also heard the defense make much of some rude words that Ymir allegedly said. For example, that he yelled, "Get out of my seat," or that he said, "You don't want to mess with me, Henry." But all of that came from Adisa Abara. She never even turned around to look at the boys. Remember, she said she didn't want to be rude. She's 77 and she was a hearing aid, so you know she can't hear that well. Can you really expect her to remember exactly what happened and the order everything happened in? But I ask you, members of the jury, is it the case that any time someone is rude, that gives us the right to hit them in the head and injure them with a hard object? The answer is clearly no. And the answer is no because we are better than that. Finally, let's talk about Henry Rivers' testimony. He just needs to say whatever he needs to stay out of jail. Think about it. One lie was going to jail. Which one do you think Henry would choose? And keep in mind, he doesn't even like Ymir Jones, so this lie comes pretty easy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Henry Rivers is guilty. We ask that you return the only fair verdict in this case, and that is guilty.
Thank you, Counselor. Will the defense give a closing statement?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how would you react if someone threatened you and was threatening to punch you after they had already dumped popcorn on your head? What would you do if you felt you were in danger? My client, the defendant, Mr. Henry Rivers, was charged with felony battery. The definition of felony battery is intentionally striking another person, causing great bodily harm, permanent disfigurement, and permanent disability. Take a look at Ymir Jones. Does he look like he suffered any of those things? The answer is no. But unless the prosecution proves, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Mr. Rivers was not acting in self-defense, you must find him not guilty. Mr. Rivers and multiple witnesses testified that it wasn't battery. He was merely defending himself from Ymir Jones. Ymir Jones cocked his hand back as if he were going to punch my client. He also said, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry." He then dumped his popcorn on Henry's head. Talk about short temper. My client reacted reasonably by hitting him on the head with a Snickers bar to defend himself. There was much evidence that Ymir Jones is a bully. Ymir Jones testified that he doesn't like Henry. Angela Fuentes testified that she and Henry once saw Ymir Jones push a kid into his locker. Angela has known Henry for many years and told you that Henry is a peaceful person who never gets into any fights. Amaro Casio testified that he saw Ymir Jones dump his popcorn on Henry's head on purpose. Mr. Ocasio does not know the boys, so he has no reason to lie for them whatsoever. And his story matches up with my client's story. Adisa Abara testified that she heard Ymir say, "Don't want to mess with me, Henry," in a threatening tone. She also had no reason to lie. Her testimony and Mr. Ocasio's raises a reasonable doubt. Destiny Fong does not like Henry Rivers, and she is friends with Ymir Jones. Are you really going to believe what she has to say? I know I wouldn't. Marco Mackey was another prosecution witness who claimed he heard Henry admit to the crime, but we know from Angela Fuentes that Henry was just being sarcastic. And even Mark testified that Henry seems like a nice guy and has never seen him get into any fights with anyone. And there's another reason to doubt Ymir's story. If the impact of the Snickers bar was so strong as Ymir Jones states, and if he really suffered a big swollen bump and had dizziness and had headaches, you would think he would have gone to the hospital. But no. He stayed and watched the Lego Movie 2, which is an hour and 47 minutes long.
That is a long time to be in pain, not to mention that he went back to get his food refill of popcorn. Clearly, those are not the actions of someone who is seriously injured. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Henry is not guilty of felony battery because he acted in self-defense. Put yourself in Henry's shoes. Yanir Jones dumped a bucket of popcorn on him, cocked his fist back, and threatened to punch Henry. Henry did the only thing he thought he had to do to protect himself. I think it is safe for me to say that my client, also known as Henry Rivers, is not guilty of felony battery. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Members of the jury, you must now decide if Henry Rivers is not guilty or guilty. To prove that the defendant is guilty of felony battery, the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Rivers purposefully used force or violence upon another person, causing serious injury. Self-defense is a defense to the crime of battery. The defendant is not guilty if he reasonably believed he was in imminent danger of suffering bodily injury, that he reasonably believed the use of force was necessary to defend himself, and that he used no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend himself. The prosecution has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Rivers did not act in self-defense. Members of the jury, your decision must be unanimous. That means that all of you will need to agree that Mr. Rivers is either guilty or not guilty. If all 12 of you do not agree, we call that a hung jury. But I'm hopeful that you will all be able to come to a unanimous decision in this case. I understand that Ms. Lopez is the foreperson of the jury. Who is Ms. Lopez? Thank you. Greetings. Ms. Lopez will lead you in a discussion of the evidence, making sure that each juror has an opportunity to express him or herself. Please keep an open mind as you listen to your fellow jurors speak. When you are done deliberating, please take a vote to determine whether Mr. Rivers is guilty or not guilty. You may now deliberate, and this court will stand in recess.
The jury will now deliberate in the jury box for no more than 10 minutes. You are welcome to go out into the lobby. Court will reconvene in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. This court is now in session.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back from our break. The court is now back in session. Ms. Lopez, has the jury been able to reach a verdict? Thank you. Would you please announce what that verdict is? I want to thank the jurors for their service, and I want to thank all the lawyers for your presentation of the evidence. This will conclude the case of the People versus Henry Rivers. Congratulations. So if I may just take a few moments to talk about what I just observed. There's a legal term for what we all just witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, and it's OMG. You guys were fantastic, really, really good. Here's some of what I heard, and I want you to know that the verdict matters least, because you just all participated in a process that is extremely important. It is the way our society resolves big problems. It is a big problem that the government is even thinking about throwing this handsome young lad in custody. And so there's a certain standard of proof that's required, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We have experts who clearly have taken their time to prepare a case because of the seriousness of the issues at hand. And in presenting the evidence in the way that they have and in arguing the case in the way that they did, they've given the jury the best information upon which to make this important decision. Beautiful work. I heard a lot of, and I was taking notes along the way. I really appreciate that everything was done with a clear voice. The speaking voice was clear and understandable. I was able to see that there was good eye contact with the witnesses and the jury. There's a good use of emotion and emphasis. What's your name, young man? Yeah. Amin is at the very end, is starting to lean over there like Atticus Finch. Both, the closing arguments for both, they jumped into air quotes, which is when you're really comfortable. Who in the world could possibly find error with old Miss Ibarra? So sweet, walking up here, just wanting to protect her young grandchild from a rain of popcorn. I've never heard those words together. But of course, we find out that she has problems with her testimony too, like every witness in this case. All the examination was wonderful. I saw great storytelling in the direct examination. The cross-examination, I thought, walked a very delicate line each time, very concise, meaning you got right to the point, right to the heart of either the strength of the witness or the weakness of the witness, whatever suited your purpose. And that's really masterful. So I applaud the tremendous work that all of you put into this. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I can tell you, I was thoroughly impressed. So a round of applause for these courageous young people.
Ladies and gentlemen, this court stands in recess. Please proceed to the lobby outside the courtroom and upstairs for a reception. Thank you.